Hello and welcome back. We are going to go through part two of my video about the Old World Pitch Battle event in Underworld Gaming. This is going to be going over games 2 and 3. If you want to see my list and information about the event in general, it's going to be in the previous video. You can go check that out. But for a very quick recap, it's a 1,000 point event. I brought a Captain on a Stag, a level 4 on a horse with Lord of the Wilds, some Glade Guards, some Glade Riders, some Wild Riders, and an Eagle. So let's get into this, which was my only loss of the weekend. So I went 2-1, and my loss was against these guys, Beastmen. It was nasty. It was a load of Viletide. Let's have a look at the list. As I said in the last video as well, like magic missiles, very good in this format, and Viletide, one of the best magic missiles in the game, I think. So yeah, my opponent brought a Wargore with Slug Skin, 3 Bray Shamans, 1 level 2, with Lore Familiar, so you can pick spells. All of them Demonology, but they're all just taking Viletide. A Primal Warherd with 19 Gores and 11 Ungor, so pretty beefy brick there. A small 7 Gore Herd skirmishing block. The champion had Scourge of the Burdened, which basically gives reserve move, which I realized was the whole gimmick behind Saul's army. Um, 5 Chaos Warhounds with Vanguard, a Herdstone, which makes sense given the whole theme and idea of the list, and then 3 Dragon Ogres with heavy armor and great weapons. Now, I will say, it's a nasty list. My opponent Saul recognized this. He's a really nice guy. I still had a good time playing against him. I actually played against him in the previous 750 point tournament where he played Chaos, and he joked that if we were to fight again, that he would bring Beastmen for that kind of classic matchup, and he did. So we were playing on table 1 against each other, and yeah, this was a rough one. Basically, the whole gimmick of the list was use Scourge of the Burden to give reserve move, Lore Familiar and Demonology to get Seed of Shadows. Basically pop in and out, and cast Wildtide on things. Wildtide's one drawback is that it's got a 15-inch range, but when you're flying 12 inches, it effectively gives it a 27-inch range. So, and especially then because you can just reserve move back, right? So yeah, pretty nasty list. Obviously the Shaman Coven and the Herdzone doing a lot to enhance that as well. So yeah, my my thoughts could be summed up as eek. 3 Volatides is a lot. Um, Obviously, one of the main powers of Voltide is that it ignores armor saves, which I don't really care about. But it's just the sheer volume of hits. Any 6 on the wound will get me. I don't have that many models, so this was not great. I also don't have, I've got a couple of ward saves, got 6 ups on the Wild Riders and a 5 up on my captain, but that's it. So really not that great. I thought that, I outrange it. Even with a 27 effective range, which I wasn't aware of at the time. I didn't realize that was his plan, as I was, kind of trying to have these thoughts go on in my head. Um, I still thought that, it's 15 inches. I can be 24 inches away more because I can also reserve move in and out, and use fireball and stuff to take down that coven. That's fine. I rolled up Spireful Torrent, so which is the magical vortex spell, which did nothing for me this game, even though I casted a lot and was up a lot. Dirtu's Wrath, which is really only going to be good against the Dragon Ogres, and I didn't really feel like risking my level 4 into them. Sapping Blight, um, which is the minus strength, which I thought would be good if I end up going into the Ungors or the big Primal Herd block, and then I swapped the other spell for Flock of Doom. I kept rolling spell number 5, which I can't remember the name of now, but basically it's the one that gives me reserve move and quick turn, which my main block has quick turn anyway because they're fast cavalry, and my captain is a skirmisher, so kind of irrelevant for me. I could see that being a useful spell if you are bringing a lot more kind of infantry. It would go very well on the Wildwood Rangers, for example, or if you have things like a dragon or a treekin or tree man or something like that, then it's useful. But yeah, I rolled it every game and defaulted to Flock of Doom every game. So yeah, the other big thing here that changed the course of this was that there are no objectives. This was just a straight up pitch battle, fight to the death. You know, victory points is all that matters through killing things. So that had a big impact on things. Talking about deployment, so this is what the terrain looked like at the start of the game. Again, you're probably going to see this this set up a lot from me, but honestly, it worked. I was very happy to have the side with both forests. Shout out to his herdstone. It was cool as hell. It was just like gnarly looking tree with looked like skeletons and stuff hanging off it. Which was just it was sick. It was a really cool it was a really cool piece. A lot of the armies I saw over the day were really well hobbied and really well painted and put together. So yeah, this is a fun looking list to play against. But yeah, started very kind of simple. Deployment wise, you know, realistically, I knew he was going to bundle up. The question was just going to be, is he going to bundle up on this side, or is he going to bundle up on this side, or maybe somewhere in the center? Like he's just going to bundle up. It's just going to be where. Um, so I went down with the hawk first. He responded with hounds. I placed my archers here, knowing that I can kind of shoot up the center of the board, no problem, and have these guys here for the same kind of reserve move in and out dance. He put his dragon ogres over here, which then made me regret not having any more shooting to kind of put down, but I figured I might be able to basically respond with my wall riders. He actually had moved them over here for defending this low linear, which I think he forgot about what that does, so would not benefit him at all to be defending that. Not in base to base, or would it? Something to check. Actually, I'm going to check right now and be back through the powers of editing. Okay, to be honest, I don't know. But in my head, it would be that neither of us are in base contact, and if you're not in base contact, you don't get all of your attacks. So it would seem that this will be a bad thing for him. But as he very quickly told me, he was not planning on moving at all during the game because he had a plan, and this was where the gimmick came in. You can see I deployed pretty much identically to my first game, down to blocking these guys, kind of expecting that he might move up with here, and wanting my eagle to either be able to block and delay the dragon ogres or perhaps block and delay the uh, herd, assuming that he was going to come full tilt towards me, as is what usually happens with beastmen. But no, he did not. He vanguarded up here. I can't remember if I won the first turn or if he gave me the first turn. I think he gave me the first turn because he wanted me to be able to come into range. I again played it pretty cautiously, pretty defensively, which I definitely do not regret from the get-go. I assumed that he would be coming up so that he can cast Viletide, and I wanted to keep my distance from him Still be within 24 to dispel with my wizard here. Being able to evasive back out of the forest if I need to. And then, being able to kind of like have this killing field in the middle with my mounted forces able to take on his mounted forces here. Actually, a very similar setup to the first game. I open fire, just try to take off some of the warhounds just to stop them getting in. This thing here is my Spiralful Torrent, which is a pretty nice magic vortex. It only affects enemy units, which is good. It is treated as difficult terrain, maybe even dangerous. I can't remember, but yeah. I wanted that to be able to do something. It did nothing the entire game, which you'll see. But yeah, so I go there. Then very uneventful first turn, and then I pass it over to my opponent, who proceeds to let me know what his plan is, i.e., hide behind his Hearthstone, fly out with Steed of Shadows and reserve move, Viletide me, and then reserve move back in and not move at all. Which then was presenting me with a very interesting, challenge of how I overcome this. Because usually one of my strengths as a Wood Elf player is having them come more into the center of the board gives me the freedom and opportunity to be wrapping around and fleeing from the center. That's kind of what you need to be able to do as a Wood Elf, right? However, if he's just staying there, I don't really want to get charged by these guys. But if you go in here, they're in a perfect defensive hammer and anvil situation, like classic setup, and you're going to get file tided as you come in. So like it's basically like playing against a gun line, which I do not want to play against, So I thought this was a really interesting thing. However, tragedy befell my opponent, as on his second spell, he rolled a miscast, which meant that all of his shamans miscast. His big shaman blows up, gets dimensional cascaded or whatever it is, loses both his wounds, gets sucked into the warps of chaos, gets destroyed, and then his other two shaman reduced to 1 wound, and his bunker reduced to maybe only 3 or 4 models. My opponent at this time was like really concerned that, well, that's just lost him the game. Obviously, then at this point, I am, if you go back to his list for a second, I am 125 points up. So like I'm winning, I believe, by the pack that, you know, puts me maybe into close victory or minor narrow victory. But because of the Hearthstone, he would control it and therefore be winning at the end. So I'm left with a conundrum. What do I do with this, right? So this game isn't that what was both boring and very tense and exciting at the same time. I elect to basically just finish off those warhounds, shoot them off. It caused a panic that ended up running, and then realize, right, if I want to be able to actually get a victory out, I've got 2 options. My number one ideal here is use my shooting and my magic missiles to try take these out. They're not very well protected. They can't control the feature anymore, so they don't have magic resistance. However, I do not get Fury of Athaloran, so I'm down the magic missile. The spells I had were Spiralful Torrent, Dirtu's Wrath, as I said, which would be good against the ogres, Sapping Blight, and Flock of Doom. So basically, I just tried to use as much as I could to start plinking wounds into these guys. I move my captain over so he can shoot in, try and hit. As much as I can, I'm just shooting and trying to get in as much as possible. He basically responds by hassling up. He moves even further in, truffles his herd block in, so that he's blocking line of sight from me. that was his intention, and I said, "Yeah, that's fine." Like, there's maybe a world in where I position myself really specifically here, but going in, but like, you know, we're we're being sent to each other, right? We're playing to intent. His intention is that he's hiding there and moving that over to block it. I said, "Yeah, that's enough to do it." Um, he hadn't moved originally, and I was like, "Look, there's probably a way I could see in." And then he's like, "Well, what if I do this? Then are you happy that I can't see it?" I was like, "Yeah, that's fine." So I then just start really trying to focus in on this block here. I got Spiralful Torrent again, hoping to have that travel in and do some damage. It doesn't. I proceeded to roll a hit 3 times in a row when trying to scatter it, which was a bit of a pain. You can see I start just moving up slowly. I knew that eventually I'm going to have to do something. And if I can whittle this unit down enough through shooting and magic missiles and vortexes and things like that, my Wild Riders will get through and do a lot of damage. So that was my hopes. So I needed to start just kind of getting that into position to enable that. He pops my eagle with Viletide, which in hindsight, in retrospect, that was just why did I bother doing that? I realistically should have moved the eagle over here or something like that and gone in. I think I was just trying everything I could to pressure it. But yeah, I should have set the eagle up in such a way that he goes over here and tries to get a flank charge in when I go in just for some additional combat res and or something like that. But yeah, I lose the eagle. I continue just to try and do a couple of wounds here, there, and everywhere. You can see Sparkle Torrent consistently not moving. I'm, inching up ever so slightly, just trying to find a place to find my time as to where I'm going to charge. And then after a while, what happens was he goes and he gets Volatile off. And he takes down my reserve move bunker. And at this point, I was like, right, now I'm actively losing the game. And really, I think I'm not that used to playing to win tournaments, right? And sometimes I have a tendency to just be like, oh, this is really boring if the two of us just hang around. Yeah, I could have just stayed 30 inches away, all the way back out here, force him to come out of his bunker, or at least, come down so that I can maneuver around him. And if he doesn't, and he basically accepts that it's a draw, well, it's a draw. I take the 3 victory points, or campaign points, tournament points, whatever they're called. He takes the 3, fine. But realistically, I think there's a lot to be said about wanting to win. Because one, if I could have won this, that's putting me into prime candidacy for overall winning the tournament, and it's more fun. This is a very kind of like passively, like, kind of boring play style to play against, and I wanted to kind of spice things up a bit. But realistically, I probably should have just said, you know what? Yeah, two can play at that game. I'm going to reserve move in and out, bring this down to 25% or something through shooting. Stay as far away as possible. Get the points for that. Okay, he captured this at the end, and that's it. Unfortunately, because there was no objectives or anything, I couldn't even like play for objectives. If there was like domination, I could have, like, controlled 3/4 of the board. I could have been like, controlling, like, if there's at least one objective here. Ideally, I don't like 2 objectives. I prefer 3, to be honest. I could have tried to then, capture this side of the board, something like that. But because there's no objectives, it really empowered this kind of passive play style, which obviously is beneficial to my opponents, but I don't think beneficial to the game as a whole. I think the objectives really, really are key to more interesting games. That said, as I said, the game was still very interesting. If only for the fact that actually not a lot happened. So what happened was, at this point, I knew it was like, right, I need to do something, and I don't have any more photos from the rest of the game. But what happened was he left the obstacle, he moved up here, and he moved, up here slightly just to close the gap here and make sure I couldn't get in or get an overrun or something. I think he like moved up and wheeled so that I would have to overrun this way. There's something like that anyway, so I couldn't get into where I had straight up told him like this is where I want to go. Um, he unfortunately gets Viletide off again on my wizard, netting him another cool 250 points or so. My Glade Riders are 150-ish. So that's not great. Already he's now in the lead, even before he gets the points for capturing the Herdstone. So I have to make a big play. These guys are up here. These guys are slightly here. I make the choice to ideally would have loved to charge both into the Dragon Ogres. Both weren't going to fit. So I decided basically it was turn 6. I would charge my captain into the brick, challenge out, maybe do a couple of wounds on overkill, lose by a couple, fall back in good order, give ground, challenge again, taking the champion 1, and then have go for his general in the next turn. That was my thoughts, and hope that the furious charge would basically take down the dragon ogres. You can't really see it, but I'd done 2 wounds to the dragon ogres from shooting with the lord earlier on, so this wasn't a million miles away from being possible. I do manage to kill 2 of the models, so I did 6 wounds altogether with my 20 something attacks. Fortunately, I lose a couple models. Then he gives ground. I follow up, means I don't get Furious Charge. I also don't get Hunting Spears. Do not then get enough attacks and wounds in to finish off the model. He finishes off the Wild Riders. I win my challenge. Then I think I rolled an 11 on my break test. So I break and flee. I managed to flee, but then it was the end of the turn. Ended around and I give up half my points for fleeing, and then I give up to 100 points for my general fleeing, which I forgot about. So that's another rule that I forgot about when it comes to scoring, which I'm not used to doing the whole scoring element of things and thinking it that way. So that was a real big learning for me. So yeah, it is that was very unfortunate. I very much clutched defeat from the jaws of a draw here. I should have just played for the draw. But yeah, I don't know. You win some, you lose some. This is when I lost. I definitely think I got bored and I got too gung ho. I should have just chilled, chip down damage, force him to come to me. Because that's what I want. With this list, that's how I'm trying to play. I think that's how this list plays better. Um, Even with Wild Riders wanting to be frenzied, I think holding them back like rabid dogs on a leash and then letting them loose at the right time is how I think they should be played now. After kind of reviewing these games in my previous tournament, so yeah, I think that's my main learning from that. So let's get on to game 3 against Adrian and his orcs and goblins. So, orcs and goblins are an interesting matchup against what else? I think one of the big challenges that we have as what else against orcs and goblins is the sheer amount of models that they can bring. So that even if you are similar to like Tomb Kings or Vampire Counts, any of the Horde armies, I think them having so many models and you only have a limited amount of shooting really means that your shooting becomes a lot less effective. So that's kind of what I was worried about going into this. However, his full list wasn't that worrying for me. He brought in an orc big boss with heavy armor, trollhide trousers, and an enchanted shield. So he had a basically a four. Sorry, I think it said to me a 2+, but I don't think that makes sense. It would be a 5 up for heavy armor, 4 up for enchanted shield, and then 3 up for the trollhide trousers. Or maybe he did say 3. Basically, he had a 3 up armor, 6 up ward with the enchanted shield, and 5 up regen with the trollhide trousers. Pretty nasty in combat. I do think that my, in order for him to be able to use the great weapon, he can't use the shield. So I think my toughness 5 Stag Lord would have a decent chance against him. If it came to it. He then had a Night Goblin Big Boss on a giant cave squig, which is really cool. It's a really fun model. Not, I don't think you see much of this, but it was fun. He then had a level 1 shaman or level 1 orc bear boy on a war boar, with lore familiar, which he was just using to take Oaken Shield from battle magic. A block of Night Goblins with, of course, 2 fanatics, 20 orc arrow boys, 9 orc boar boys, who are big ones. Orc mobs were big ones as well, and then 6 squig hopper mobs. These things I was not looking forward to because of random movement, and then Doom Diver catapults, which I've had a really bad experience before, where basically a Doom Diver one shot my basically this exact captain in a very similar way. So I was very worried about that because so much of my list revolves around having my captain be beneficial. So my thoughts going into this is that he has a lot of shooting, but with the Doom Diver and the Arrow Boys, but because they're all blocked up, I think I can use Flock of Doom. They also only have Warbows, so 24-inch range, so I've got the range advantage, which is good. I can effectively stay out of his range for 2 turns and get 2 turns of shooting against him, which is nice. Just gotta accept that Fanatics are gonna rock me. Like, they don't. There's not a whole lot to say about Fanatics. They suck to play against. You can't really do much against them. You can't. I can't send my eagle up and have them release. It just he'll get to decide. I thought that the Boar Boys versus Wild Riders is a favorable matchup for me because if I get the charge, guaranteed +3 initiative. So I'm on initiative 9, which I think will be better than him. I'll hit first with 20 something attacks. He's not withstanding that, or at least I'm winning on combat res, even if he gets to hit back. I was very wary of the squigs and random movement denying my stand and shoot, so I really wanted to prioritize hitting them as much as possible, which meant that I have to, because I would have loved to shoot the war boys, right? But I think I had to accept that the wild riders were going to be useful against them, and that the big squig has killing blow. So I was not wanting to put my captain into there. But we'll see how that actually panned out. It was, of course, pitch battle, like all the games were, and strategic objectives 2, which I think is the not fun one because it just kind of, well, there's one on my side that I can capture straight away. There's one on your side that you can capture straight away. What are we fighting over here? I much prefer having 3 in the middle of the board. I think that's way more interesting. But anyway, map looked like this. Very similar maps across the entire thing. Basically, a terrain piece in each corner. And hey, wouldn't you know it? My forest goes down in the left-hand side again, because I am a one-trick pony, it looked like. He deployed very centrally at first. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's worked for 2 games so far this weekend. Put this over here. Eagle as a decoy drop and just to kind of have something down. And then very much have these guys available for the killing field. Ideally, if I need to move away from these squigs, I can. There was a world in actually where I was considering using my wild riders to take down the squigs here and go this way. So I could have placed my wild riders behind here, screened with these guys. They could move up at the same time, and then with reserve move out of the way, letting that come in, right? Um, so that was going through my head for a bit, but he put his boar boys down here then on this flank, obviously hoping to get in here behind me, and I elected to accept that challenge with my wild riders, and then placing my captain here in the center. Now, in hindsight, this was a bad idea. Now, my opponent didn't capitalize on this mistake. I think he, very nice guy. It's a very good ideas, but I think he's maybe not fully up to speed on the rules, or maybe lacked some understanding of the nuances of the rules, or just straight up didn't think about it because he gave me the first turn, which meant obviously I can't charge. This is too far away for a charge, and that meant that I was able to move my eagle up here as a blocker, so I can't be frenzy baited. Because had he taken first turn, I think he should have just moved to whatever the absolute range of my declarable charge distance, um, held, and assume I'm not going to roll double sixes and get in, right? And then I probably end up getting to like here, and then he gets the charge on me. I get pulled out of position. He moves around here with his mangler squig, and goes to town on me. I think that's, if I was in a position, that's what I would have done. Instead, I get the first turn, so I set up this kind of nasty trap for him. So the idea here was that, and to be honest, I could have taken, I probably should have taken more time to fully plan this out. And but I was faffing around a lot with my rod riders and exactly where I wanted to put them. In the end, I kind of just went on vibes. Um, I was originally maybe putting them up higher, but I realized that that would probably mean he charges in here and overrun. So I took a little bit, I was taking a bit too long to kind of get this into position. I didn't want to waste more time. So I just said, look, roughly here works for me. I'm actually happy enough for him to get the flank on me because I want him to consider overrunning, right? Um, Now, I did make sure to tell him and remind him of the evade rule, which I don't think he knew. That said, like, look, if you do this overrun, um, you know what? Let's actually just, we'll cover the rest of what happened first. Basically, I didn't have a whole lot for these guys to do. They couldn't reach here, so these guys just got some wounds off of the orcs, and then I just magic missiled and shot the squig herds there. I think I got like two or three models off. He charges, right. He ends up here, so this is after his movement. He can move just everything up, you know, this up. He's down to 4 models here, which I was feeling very good about. These are very easy to kill, especially with arcane bodkins. I just needed force to wound. Grand. They're also unit strength 2, so I wasn't at -1 to hit. That was another rule that I don't think he was fully aware of. I have to remind him, like, unfortunately, I'm very much aware that Blade Riders are not -1 to be hit, even if they are skirmishers, which is kind of a pain. He has to be unit strength 1 to benefit from that. So yeah, he just basically advanced, gets the charge in here. And I put him in a tough position because he gets this charge, right? If he overruns here, I can use evade. One, this is already a pretty big overrun. I don't know exactly how it was, but it was at least 12 inches or so. Um, I could, you know, unless I roll a 6, I'm likely to be able to evade. I pull back. That's fine. Even if I don't, there's actually a world in where I just hold and just wait, because on my next turn I just get that flank charge anyway. So I'm putting him in a relatively tough position. I'm very conscious of the fact that fanatics are going to about to come out here very soon, and to be honest, he probably should have done that at the start of my turn, because what happens is knowing that I could evade, uh, he opts to reform. He reforms wide, so he can maximize attacks against me, which makes sense. And then on my turn, well, spoiler alert. What happens is I declare a charge in here. I don't think he was expecting me to also charge in here. So he opts to declare a counter charge against my general, against my stag, which pivots him slightly. He moved 2 or 3 inches. I then wheel, go up, close the door, and also get in here, and that was good night. Befuddlement of Mischief, making him weapon skill 2, meant everything was hitting on 2s. He was hitting on 5s. He didn't even get a chance to hit back. I was hitting on 2s. I was wounding on 3s. Yeah, because they are big ones, so they are toughness 4. I was hitting on 2s, wounding on 3s, 20 something attacks. I wiped him out. Pretty handily. My Wild Riders overrun off the board as needed or as necessary, and then I overrun here just to give a little bit distance from the Fanatics when they inevitably come out. And then, as you see, I've done a bit more damage on the Squig herd. I've just moved back, playing it very defensively against them, and done a couple more shots against the orcs. So yeah, he goes and sends in the Night Goblin Big Boss on the Squig into me. However, Befuddlement of Mischiefs and Annoyance of Letlings proving their worth. He was hitting me on 5s. He or maybe he was hitting me on 4s. No, he would have been hitting me on 5s because of -1 to hit. So I declared a challenge. And then because of Befuddlement as well, he was actually going at the same time as me before his Squig got to attack, which was huge for me. He actually still managed to do 2 wounds to me, which because I just flubbed all my armor and ward saves. But I managed to do 3 hits back. I think I was actually hitting on 2s, or maybe it was 3s, wounding on 2s. I managed to do 3 wounds before it could attack back, and wiped it out. His Doom Diver also misfired, lost a wound. At this point, I don't know if there's much coming back for him. I charge up with my captain, take out the Doom Divers. I come on here with the Wild Riders. He releases the Fanatics, at the same time. One of them deletes itself because it rolled doubles. The other one got through. I think only took off 1, maybe 2 models from it. And he did 3 hits, and I saved at least 1. So that wasn't too bad. I obviously come in after the declare charges, so I'm still frenzy, but I can't charge, so I don't have to. I wheel up here, move, and then take my fast cavalry quick turn, pivot, free pivot at the end, basically threatening wherever I want to go. I don't really know what he was thinking at this point, just kind of moves forward. Realistically, what he should have done is reformed with his Arab boys, shot. There was only 1 wound left here. He should have just shot, even if it's only like 5 shots, I think that's worth it. What doing this is kind of pointless. I think he was maybe going for my Bay Guard. He was never going to catch them or do much into them. They'll shoot him down. I decided to just hide my captain. I couldn't afford to lose any points from him. Rear charging the goblins, and then at that point, that was the game. I do a couple more wounds onto the orcs. Shooting alone would take them out. Wild Riders were taking the goblins out. That was it. He conceded then. So I won, a 1250 to 60 or something like that. So it was yeah, very much a wash. That yeah was fully decided by really by deployment and this combo charge here, which I'm very proud of setting up this trap. This is the reason I bring eagles, I think. Having fly and making sure that I could actually have the flexibility to fly over this and get to where I wanted is huge. It being close order, meaning he has I have a flank that he has to go into. I can means I can funnel him in the direction I wanted to open up these kind of multi charges. That's what won it for me. So yeah, I don't know if that my opponent could have done much more. I think trying to bait out frenzy here would have been key, even if he brings this down, force a frenzy up here, and then gets the same charge on me, would have done really, really well for him. I would have had to, I could maybe have avoided that by putting the eagle like here in such a way that he'd have to charge my front arc and then go this way if he wanted, but I would have been pulled out of position, which is what I don't want. So yeah, that's it. Again, thanks very much for watching. I'm pre-recording all of these. I'm about to edit them now and upload them. So I've no idea still what the first video of this, what the reception has been. I hope it's been nice. I hope you guys have been nice to me in the comments. As always, if there's any obvious gaps in my knowledge, if I've mentioned any rules I've gotten wrong, please let me know. Willing and eager to learn. Don't think I've mentioned this actually yet, but I have a Discord as part of the overall Hearthfire project. We've got a few Warhammer fans there. If you like coming and chatting in general, the link is in is in the episode description. Come say hi. Show us what you're working on. That would be cool. I'm going to be now painting a bit over this coming week, and I'm looking forward to kind of posting up progress pictures as I do so. But yeah, until then, thanks very much for watching. Very much appreciate it. Likes, comments, subscribe goes a long way. And I don't know when my next game is set, so I don't know when my next video is going to come out. But hopefully I get some more games in over the summer, and we'll be back with more as I do. Uh, in the meantime, I'm considering putting together a couple of a video on rules that I've gotten wrong, such or that seem to have come up, such as the evade was one, the frenzy and not being able to reform is another, and I'm sure there's more as I watch and edit these videos back. But yeah, until then, cheers, good luck, and have a great time playing Warhammer, I guess. What a terrible outro that was.